Hi, this is Amrita Sukumar and I host the Unsettling podcast. Before we begin, I would like to inform you that today's episode is in collaboration with This is Living with Stories. And if you want to read about more such inspiring stories, all you have to do is go to Instagram, type This is Living with Stories, and it'll take you where you need to be. And if you want to listen to more such unsettling episodes where we talk to guests with alternate career options and somebody who has broken stereotypes, you have to stay tuned to Unsettling. So let's begin. So I have a brief introduction about you. And honestly, this is the first episode I would say is all about unsettling, which I honestly wanted to talk about. So everybody in your life tells you, beta, settle ho jao. We hear this phrase every other day. But what does it really mean? Does it mean finding a life partner? Does it mean settling for a life of adjustment and compromise? Does it mean living by the rules that conform you? To address these questions, we have with us somebody who's broken free of her abusive marriage, refused to live a life of compromise and adjustment, and fought against the age old law stating that you need the signature of both the parents for a simple passport approval document, even if you're separated. Her actions helped change the law, which now approves the signature of either of the two parents. And after this 10-year ordeal of separating from her ex, fighting for the custody of her child, and defending her rights as a single parent, she was finally free. Her story has inspired many women to fight for their rights and find justice. And to know more about her, I would like to welcome our guest and unsettler, Zaria Patni. Hi, Zaria, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Looking lovely in Lady in Red. I think I should call you Lady in Red instead of
Okay,
Amrita.
I don't mind that. And coming from you, it means a lot. You look lovely as well. I need makeup.
Thank you so much. Very soon, shortly after this.
Done.
So yes.
So how's life?
So
How is it going now?
that's the funny part when everyone like the past 1 year when people are asking me how's life, and in my head I'm like, we're literally going through the same thing. Everyone's at home since exactly 1.5 years. None of us have done anything different other than lots of people have discovered skills of cooking, editing videos, working from home, and trying to be a teacher, a cook, a parent, house help. And I could say I was the dishwasher in the family because I literally did most of the dishes because we didn't have maids at home. Like we only have part time, so now the part times are coming. So almost till the lockdown eased out, I
Mhm.
literally wash dishes. Like I literally, my hands just look clean all the time.
Oh, yes.
Like they
Even
were
my
well
father was saying
manicured.
that. So my father was saying that by the end of the lockdown, I think our hands are going to look younger than our faces because we keep scrubbing
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. I was literally the case. Like my sister came once, so she's like, "You're washing the dishes like so fast, and you hate washing the dishes." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I rather have that clean kitchen and everything in place before I have to get up from like probably watching a show and I again go back to the kitchen because my mom wants everything like clean and set." So going by the mom's rules. But yeah, so life so far is, I guess, just stagnant. My son just started his 10th standard, so it's like going back to school and boards and assignments and project work and all that is still going on. So it's a little like stressful. Like I had like a little mini anxiety attack when his mails were coming in for work, and I'm like, are we gonna finish all of this? Since there's like a whole, like it's not a school atmosphere, like you're not meeting people, you're just sitting in the house. And like so far it's okay. I guess everyone is living an okay life,
I guess so.
more or less.
Everyone
Yeah.
is surviving, going through this pandemic. I guess the only way to meet people now is online, like we are meeting now.
Online, exactly. And like so many of the interviews and stuff, like I had like, like some of the people I were interviewing, I wish we could do this in an auditorium, like in a bigger place. And someone had booked me for like um, some college show where they wanted me to like come and talk in front of like, I don't know, like some 2-3 thousand children in
Mhm.
some big auditorium. And they told me about this in Feb and they kept telling me later, okay, in the next 2 months we'll see it's been exactly a year, and we've still been in the same place.
Oh my God. I know.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah. And they
it
don't
goes
want to
well
do it.
soon.
Yeah, they don't want to do it online. So it just
Mhm.
leaves. It's just not. Some things are just not possible online. So it just like so much of stuff is just like pending, sitting there.
I
So
know.
yeah, so far so good.
How about your photography assignments? Like, are you photographing from home?
No, so I no no. So basically, I used to do that for my sister,
Right.
and now I'm not doing it anymore. I actually work with my dad in our family business since past 5 years.
Okay.
So I guess on every social media, it was the time when I was actually doing photography. But I do it at home, like whatever little bit. Like now between the pandemic, like whatever I can actually get a great picture to take, I do it. Otherwise, it's not on a constant
Okay.
basis anymore. Did a little bit for my sister when she had went little bit things that opened up last year, but post that I haven't done anything in particular.
Okay. So great. Like everyone else, you also moved on to different things because lockdown.
And just working. Yeah, just just haven't got my cooking skills right because I'm a really bad cook.
That's okay. There's always YouTube to blame. Like recipe अच्छा नहीं था हम क्या करें?
That's true. I'm gonna use that excuse next time something goes wrong.
Yes. But that's what I do at home. So,
I can imagine.
oh my God.
Mm.
So, this is the one question that I wanted to ask you, and I know you have spoken about it a lot of times, and I guess people have read about it as well. So, you were just 19 when you went through this traumatic experience where you had to deal with domestic abuse and deal with a lot of things. So, how did you cope with it, and how did you get the grit and perseverance to fight through it for almost 10 years?
So when it was happening to me, I didn't know what was happening. Honestly, I didn't even know this was violence or this was some kind of emotional abuse, and I actually didn't ever come across the term domestic violence. Like there was nothing like domestic violence in my dictionary, in my history of that 19-year-old or in my family. And even if someone was being violated or abused, I don't think it was spoken about as children. Like
Right.
it wasn't a part of a curriculum in any walks of life, whether it was home, whether it was our friends, it was family, even distant relatives. We never heard of anything like that. Probably read it in a Daniel Steele book, like as a novel, like an
Yes.
abusive husband. And, like, I remember when I came back and I told my parents this, and they eventually, when they got to know what was happening, my mom used to tell me to like write down all the abuse, like whatever was happening. Basically, I don't think she even used the word abuse. It was more like write down whatever happened to you in those 9 months that you were married. And when I started writing down, I actually felt like I was writing a story, like, like someone's story, like something I read from a novel back in when I was in school. And like, how is this happening to me? So it took me a whole year to, I think, accept that this is me. Like, this is my story. This is what happened to me. And
Right.
then post that, I think the perseverance came from because I didn't want to put my son through this. Like I didn't want him to see this. Like I always had like these goals in life. Like I want to do this, I want to do this, and then none of my goals actually were to like have a baby and then have a baby and bring him up in this violent atmosphere. So it was quite like in my head, I was like, no, I have to fight this through to make sure that he does not grow up in this abuse because this is not what I want for him. Like I've read, I've heard, I've seen movies where children from abuse probably turn out to be like like difficult kids because the history either repeats itself because they think it's okay, or then they become very like very disconnected from the world because they don't know how to handle their emotions, right? And I didn't want that for my son, so I think the idea to like fight this back was only solely for him. Like I could not have another life, be subjected to this or see this or be okay with this or be that. So it
Mhm.
was just all these things. So those 10 years were literally, I think, invested in him.
I have noticed that women have this, I don't know, some kind of energy that when they're in war, they're completely in war zone and they try to see it through. And only when they are out of it is when they realize that, hey, I did so many things to get to where I am right now. And I think it's the same with you. That's what I see in you because you've got that grit. You've fought through all this, and now that you're out of it, you feel, oh, finally, I'm just done. And when I look back, I,
Yeah,
I don't realize that these are all the things that I went through. Uh,
100%.
so I understand. But there's this one thing that I've noticed, like especially about me and a lot of my peers when I was a teenager, that people find it very normal when partners are very possessive and they keep them in check, or they check where they are all the time, check their phone, stalk them, because even Bollywood has romanticized this, and they feel that this is something that is okay, that means
That's
the person cares about you. So, what do you feel is your perspective about all this? How would you like to tell them that this is wrong, the teenagers? And also, there's another layered question that I would like to ask you. After going through all this, do you feel that now you are at the other end of the spectrum where you don't believe in all this? Do you not believe in romance at all?
No, I definitely do believe in romance. We'll come back to that. But my first answer is that no, it's absolutely wrong. Like I know Bollywood has romanticized this, and they've made a movie also. And I was also interviewed for the movie for with Times of India. That what are your takes on it? Like, how do you think this? How is this okay? And I'm like, no, it's not okay.
Mhm.
Like checking someone's phone or being there's nothing like being superly possessive. Like in my idea, if X and Y are dating and they're together, they're dating for a reason. So why is there a need to check somebody's phone or keep a tab on them where they are? They anyways love you. And if you suffocate a person so much, then the person will eventually leave or probably find other ways to get over it because they find it so difficult to break up with you for whatever reasons. So
Mhm.
when two people are dating, I feel like there should be enough trust in order to let the relationship flourish and go forward and let it be happy instead of being all the time stuck with like suspense and wondering like what is the person doing right now, why they reply back to me, who are they talking to, what are they so busy doing, who's this girl, why she commented, like a lot of things. Yeah, I'm sure they're 100% sure that there are individuals that probably like talk to other individuals of the opposite sex to probably make someone feel jealous or make someone feel wanted or try to like make themselves feel better about themselves so that they get more importance from their partner. I'm sure people do that many times, but it's not right. It's not correct. Like when you're in a relationship, I think you should give your 100%, and then you see that if this is going or of this or you like the person that you are with, and if not, then you just call it quits. And no, I haven't. My idea of romance is still there. I'm still like that hopeless romantic because it took me a while to be where I am right now when I'm passing these comments, because maybe a few years back I would be like, God, it's bullshit, like when I was in the midst of it. And then I had to like fine tune myself that I was married to the wrong person. I
Mm.
was married to a person who has problems, who is crazy, who is just a crazy person who needs help
Yeah.
in those terms. But the idea of romance and marriage cannot be defined by one individual.
Hmm.
And I did meet someone post my divorce, and he was a really nice person, and we still are friends and we still do talk. So the idea of romance it still exists for me. I'm not gonna give it like a blind eye and be like, oh no, that's all garbage. No, it is pretty much alive.
I am so glad. I'm so glad. Because usually what happens is when you go through something this traumatic, you feel that, everything is not working out, everything is bullshit, as you said. And then
Hmm.
coming out of it requires a little time. I'm glad you're out of it and you believe in romance again. And as you said, it is absolutely right that if there is trust, then everything works. If there's no trust, then no matter what you do, even if you give your phone, even if you are very open, that person is still going to believe that you're wrong, and it is still going to be toxic. So if it is toxic, I think you should leave. Like, please run away. Um,
Yes, for sure.
okay, so I understand that domestic abuse is sometimes very scary for people who are going through it. So it sometimes happens that the abuser threatens to physically or mentally harm you and your loved ones, and that scares the person who is at the receiving end. And not everyone has the grit to stand up for themselves. So what should one do in such a case? What would you suggest?
So I have previously done an interview where I was asked this question, like, what does one do when they're stuck in an abusive marriage or an abusive relationship? I think it's more for abusive marriage, because an abusive relationship, you're still living in a separate houses and you can somehow, like you're in a safe haven. But in an abusive marriage, I feel like the person who's going through it should at least have one individual that they can trust.
Mhm.
And if it's possible to literally sort of, like record, see, not all of us have phones, devices, like different apps you can communicate
Yeah.
with a person, Like when I was married, I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a phone. Like my phone was also taken, so I didn't have any record of anything other than a hospital file, which was again with the hospital, and then I got it when I filed for my domestic violence case here in India, because I literally had no record. I just had words. I just
Right.
had a story. Now my story could have been truth or it could have been a lie. How to prove that? I had nothing. I had nothing to prove my story, to be honest. But nowadays, since we have devices, since we have people, we have places, we can go to centers that can help us get out of abuse, or someone who can hear us. I feel like first thing you should address the fact that this is happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
that all this is not normal. And the second thing is, once you understand that this is happening to you, then you start talking to people who might be able to help you. And it's always very difficult to leave an abusive marriage, because not always the family is supportive. When kids are involved, it's even worse, because you don't know what the other individual is capable of doing to the kids. Like no matter how much I say that, end it, get out, you need to get out of it. But when kids are involved, it's very, very difficult. And especially in India, where most of the parents are, when they want their kids to get married, when they want their daughters to get married, obviously you get to know much later that the man is abusive. You don't get to know when they're doing the feras or nikah or whatever, that the man is abusive. The daughters usually don't have any work experience, or they haven't studied, or they haven't done anything for years.
Right.
So when they get married thinking that, okay, this person is going to give me some kind of stability,
Hmm.
that this settlement is going to give me something. Like, I'll be happy in this life, like 100 things, right? So when they're trying to get out of the marriage, then they are stuck because they're not financially independent. So it's just so many. It's like this whole vicious circle. So nowadays, I'm like, no, you study, you make money, you have your own bank account, you have your own income. So tomorrow, God forbid, something happens, you can back down on whatever you already have instead of being so dependent on the man.
I know, I know. It's so important because finances and everything is not taught to you in school. All this is not taught to you in school. And if only we had learned all this, I think we would be in a different
I know,
place right now, even now.
literally,
So
literally, like sometimes I like joke to my teachers also who I talk to at times. I was like, I wish there was like a rule book when you get married and when you get divorced to tell us exactly what we're supposed to do.
yes,
Ah.
it is so difficult because I have seen a lot of women who get married and then they are absolutely stuck in the entire loop, where you have to take care of the child, the family, and the entire household. And then you end up not doing the things that you love because, hey, I am responsible for the entire setup. So when there's a time when you feel, hey, I have to leave, maybe you can't because you're so stuck in the
Yeah,
loop. You don't know what is your way out, like what next, and that thought scares
true.
you. That thought itself scares you that I don't know what to do next with my life because I'm so dependent that just to think of a plan B will require so much structure, so much thought, so much mental support from somebody that it is kind of difficult to get out. So I understand, and I would urge all the women out there, please be financially independent. So important, please.
Yeah, like all the new girls that are like out of college or like studying on their teens, I'm just like, please study. Like, don't be like, oh, my parents want me to get married, they're trying to find me someone. I'm like, please study. Like, you have that in you, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've given that choice to study. You've given that choice that you don't have to get married right now. You don't have anyone after you. I'm like, I really wish I knew better. I would have absolutely done things absolutely different. So, and I'm like, you do have someone to like advise you. Like, you have me out here to like tell you, like, don't do it all wrong. Like, try to do it all right when you can.
I agree. I agree. Oh, so, well, you spoke about a few organizations that people can get in touch with. Are you aware of any such organizations if, someone is going?
So I can't say organizations, because I think some of the women's cell and stuff in India are not that equipped to help people from domestic violence, because most of them are not cohesive with the courts. Like the government, our Indian government is shit. They literally do. They have their own different mind, own setup, lots of bribe. Whoever has money has more power. Unfortunately, that's what it is in India. The value of human is zero, and we can see that given the current situation, how the value of humans are literally
Yes.
zero in our country.
Mhm.
But so far, there are a bunch of like places. I'm not particularly in touch with anyone in particular, but I do know that right now they have helplines for, I think, domestic violence and abuse, or like suicide prevention, child welfare. There are a few that have like come up during COVID. I was seeing a lot because I feel like during the first wave, people who were in abusive marriages got really stuck.
Yes.
So that time there were a lot of messages that were being circulated around with these particular helplines. But I personally am not in affiliated with anything as of now. Maybe I should also look into that myself. It's mostly the first preference always is like, oh, who's your lawyer? Please can you get your lawyer?
Hmm.
So that my only point of contact is my lawyer right now.
I get it. I know. No, I will look up a few organizations and I will make sure I add the links in the description so that people get to know if they are
Yeah.
looking for
I
someone.
feel like I need to start an organization myself because I'm like so fed up of listening to the amount of abuse that's been happening around the
Yes.
country to women, and then children being used as pawn, which is very
Oh,
depressing to
that
hear.
that is another.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I feel that somewhere we are lacking in education. Like, if only we were told all this when we were children, all of these things. It is so important that
I don't think.
we're taught all this and we're not. All we're taught about is maybe integration, disintegration, which I don't remember now. All I remember is Pythagoras theorem, which is lucky. But otherwise, nothing of use. Like, honestly, finances was something very important. Sex education was important. Consent is so important. Consent is something that is not taught in schools and colleges. All you learn is from movies. Um, consent मतलब लड़की के नाम में हाँ होता है हा हा. So sweet.
Yeah, literally. Just a lot of things were not taught. I feel like our education system really needs to take a whole
It
180
does.
degrees turn in what they need to teach, the individuals nowadays as compared to what we were taught when we were kids.
Yes,
The
yes.
Pythagoras is not taking you exactly anywhere unless you're Elon Musk. But
I need to go there.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's far, far
Hmm.
away.
Exactly. Those are one of a kind.
I know.
The
So,
normal public, we need to learn all a lot of things.
sorry, sorry.
I
Uh,
said for the normal public, we need to learn a lot of things.
yes, yes, we do. I know. I know. I still remember. I This is unrelated. So, I don't even know if I should tell you the story. It's such an embarrassing story, but I just wanted to lighten the mood. So, I remember I was a child and I had not learned subtraction then. So, my mom used to ask me to get 6 eggs in one tiny basket. Or
Hmm.
mummy had given me $10 and she told me, "Ki
Huh.
jao, give that man 10 rupees and he'll give you the eggs."
Huh. Huh.
Again, before getting the eggs, you have to ask him how much it is for. So I went, I took my basket very nicely. I went to him, मैंने बोला uncle 6 अंडे मैंने डाल दिए. Then then I asked him कितने के and he said 9 rupees. Now I went back home and I told my mom, "Mummy, आपने 10 रुपए दिया." He said 9 rupees. So my mom is like, "You idiot! You have to give him $10 and he'll give you 1 rupee back."
1 rupee back. Man, this is the time when eggs were that cheap.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was like feels like a
One is for six.
lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Now one egg is for $6,
Yeah,
if I'm
I
not
think
wrong.
so. I haven't been paying the. I think my sister takes care of the egg man in the morning.
So
Since I
this
don't
is
still wake up that early. But yes,
so yeah. So
good
basically, I'm
one.
saying addition subtraction is very important to learn, even if you don't learn Pythagoras.
Yeah,
Please don't be like me.
exactly. The basic. I'm like that. I also suck at math. Really bad at math. So I still count on my 1, 2, 3 or ask Mohammed, can you minus this, plus this for me, please?
अभी phone में ना,
And
so
it,
you just whip out your phone and like.
yeah, I know. But I feel like that's an embarrassment. I need to calculate on my calculator for like small amounts.
Yeah, I know, but it's okay.
Hmm.
Oh, thank God. You laughed. So I'm happy. But then I'm going back to the serious questions. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
So, what changes do you feel that there should be in the judicial system that would help bring justice faster?
I feel like there's a whole list of things I need to change. Maybe I should only stand for the next PM.
Please
Probably will
do.
get some
I'll
sort of
vote for you.
equality.
I mean, I can't directly vote for you, I'll indirectly vote for you.
So, firstly, I don't think that the court should let go of the custody matters,
Mhm.
which are going on for like years and years together. I feel like the custody should be given to the parent. I'm not going to just subject it to one sex, but to the parent that is actually capable of taking care of the child. And 100% sure that it's always the mother, because it's really not possible for the father to take care of the kids when they are working. They're not biologically equipped to do so in the real world. Like, I know there are a lot of like same-sex marriages, and there are a lot of gay people who want to adopt, and all the love and all of that is there, but again, then there's one partner that is subjected to take care more on a monthly form, and it's not right to remove the child from its mother secured environment and just hand it over to a random person who's only literally fighting in terms of like not even fighting because of love, they're just fighting to harass.
Right.
99% of the time when the cases are in the matter and the husband is giving a hard time is because he's doing it to harass. Because I had read this article many years back when I was really small in Reader's Digest. It was, one of those off articles that come. Reader's Digest had so many different articles, and I remember reading, like, they used to always like a small paragraph from the entire article. They would enlarge it and like keep it in the middle
Mhm.
of the entire article. So I had read out there, it said that if the husband loves his wife in whatever form, he will never abuse the kids. And he'll make sure that the kids are always happy with the wife, and he will be there for them even if they are not together. So
Yeah.
this is something that always stuck in my head. So every time I see where the husband is like behaving difficult, or I've heard stories, or people have told me about this is happening, I know for a fact that when he's fighting, he's not fighting because he loves the kids. He's only fighting because he wants to harass.
Yeah.
Because you
Right.
cannot take away small babies who are like age of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going up to like a teen away from their mother, because they do need their mother in the first initial year. The only mother's gonna understand what a child is 100% about. And there are some definitely wonderful men out there who are stuck with women that are abusive.
Hmm.
So the court really needs to see exactly with enough proof and details, and definitely not prolong the matter for years and years, because then the kids are the ones that are suffering more than anything else.
I agree. I agree. Uh, I have seen actually, I've seen one of my peers. She went through a court case for 10 years just because of the custody case.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never thought that it would be so long drawn. So when we met around 1 2 years ago. So when she was talking about her divorce and the case and everything, I thought, hey, it must be maybe a 6 month old case of sorts. That's what I thought. And then she said, no, we've been fighting for around 10 years. And I said, 10 years? I mean, what do you mean that your child is 10 years? That means that the child has not
Yeah.
seen the father in 10 years. She's like, no, it's been that
It's
long.
quite sad. Yeah, it is.
So I didn't know that. I mean, I thought it was maximum 6 months, you're fighting, you're trying to find evidence. But 10 years is such a
No,
long
it's
time.
not. Yeah, even I fought for 6 years, and plus 4 were for the other cases like domestic violence and alimony, and those were just like I just wanted Muhammad's custody. Nothing else mattered at that point. So it was 6 years, and it was hell because the judges are on vacations and bribes, and there's lots of under the table that happens when the parties are really big,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of, like, honestly, there's a lot of injustice. And like, though I feel like the courts don't really care about what is going on because they see just so many cases coming, and the people that are getting the feeling that it's affecting the most are the kids, because they're always seeing the parents either unhappy or fighting, or mother's always in a sad mood, upset mood, can't do anything. Sometimes the husband has put some clauses that, oh, she cannot get remarried, or she can't do this, she can't talk to anyone. Excuse me, it's not your life once you're divorced. So once you're planning for a divorce, like, stop harassing the person. Every individual has a right to get remarried or do whatever they feel like in this day and age. So it's just a lot of like, it's like I've been, a few of my friends have unfortunately been experienced this in the mid of COVID with kids. So it's all too personal for me when I see so much of injustice that's happening.
Mhm. Okay, I did not know, and that's really bad. I think they do. I hope they do something about this. This is really annoying. I mean, not
I feel
getting
like people like,
remarried. Who are you
I
to
know,
tell me what I do?
exactly. I just feel like a lot of stuff. I feel like I have to sit and now do some things, make some more changes. Manage to make one change. I'm sure I can do others.
Yes, yes, you did. So, well, I would like to know more about that change that you did. So, well, you were able to make sure that there's a law passed that any parent can, either of the two parents can, give a signature for the document for approval of a passport, which was not there before, which I was unaware of. So, how did that happen? What did you do?
So honestly, I didn't expect. To be honest, I really didn't expect. So my uncle, he knew I was struggling with all of this for like so many years, and he knew someone who owned, I think, the website change.org.
Mm-hmm.
Change, I guess, its organization. And I had come back from the passport office, and he's like, "So what happened? Like, did you submit all your papers?" I was like fretting and angry. I was like, I submitted all the papers. I've given every single thing. I've even given an NOC saying that, this guy is not there, and my lawyer can prove it that this guy is not in the picture, and they're still harassing me. Like, they've told me to file for a missing person, and they've told me to ask, like, get an NOC from him saying that he's okay with it. I'm like, but he's not in the picture. I have absolutely no idea where this guy is. There's nothing. He's living his own life. He at that point was also remarried for the third time, and he was going on holidays. Like, he was basically free to do whatever he felt like. So I'm like, he's doing whatever he feels like. I'm still stuck here. How is it fair that his signature is so important when he's not a part of my entire life for so many years, and
Yeah.
especially not a part of my son's life? So that drove me crazy. And then my uncle was like, why don't you just do this online? Like, just
Mm-hmm.
file this petition online. So I spoke to my lawyer. Once I did this, I started sending it to people. I honestly didn't realize that this would be like, I don't know, I think 2 lakh signatures or something. Like, it started getting copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, send forward, non-stop. Like, I had like a inbox of like some 50 100 mails, which were like probably like forwards and like stuff like that. Suddenly boom to like 5,000 emails, because every person who sent it, I would get an email that this person has signed it from
Mm-hmm.
my friend list.
Right.
I had 5,000 emails, and then that went into another level. And every time I signed in to see, I had like so many messages saying that thank you for doing this. Like, our parents have been divorced. I don't know where my father is. I haven't been able to apply to colleges abroad because I don't have a passport. And there was people that were struggling. There were people that were teenagers under the age of 18 who had access to the internet, who didn't have a passport, who didn't know where their father was, who didn't have any paperwork. Like, so many different situations. They were either adopted, or they were living with like they were living under a care guardian who didn't, like,
Right. So
felt the
many
need that he does
things.
not have to go abroad, so
Exactly.
is not going to sign any, like, so many different things. And I used to just read the emails, and I was like, oh God, I'm not just one person that's stuck into this. There are so many people, and just that no one had that
No one has the,
feeling. I
yeah.
can't even say feeling. No one had the drive. Yeah, the strength of the drive to go up on social media and do this. And I really wanted to. I
Mm-hmm.
really needed to get my son's passport. I really wanted to take him out. I really wanted him to like see a different country and like do different things. And yeah, that was it. And I really didn't think that it would get media coverage and it would like be spoken in some every important newspaper in the country, including Bombay Times and Pune Times and Hyderabad Times. And just like everything that was important had covered it, including Asian Age, and some of the Economic Times also called me once, and I'm just like, wow, it was crazy. It was everywhere,
Right.
and I really didn't expect this because up till then, no one had ever heard that this
Mm,
even existed, that you were not
exactly.
allowed to make a passport. So it was like, what? You can't make a passport, but why? But you're the mother, and I'm like, well, then I should be able to make the passport since he's under my guardianship in so many years, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. I'm the one that takes care of him. My ex is literally not in the picture. Thank God for that.
I know. And I was absolutely unaware of something like this. Like, honestly, I was not. And when I read about it, I was really shocked. Like, what would people do? I mean, how will you get a passport then? Are you supposed to sit here and not do anything? I mean, thank God for online classes now. But if you wanted to learn online then,
Apparently,
what would you do?
yeah,
If you want to learn
yeah,
offline, then what would you do? Nothing.
exactly. And
So many lost opportunities
I
because
know,
of the
I
school.
remember I had told the lady. Exactly. And I remember I was sitting up and I was telling that lady, I was like, ma'am, like this is not possible. They also भी यहीं पड़े रहते हैं. Like, they're just like stuck here. And I'm like, I don't want to be that thing that is like stuck here till my son is 18. I don't want to. Definitely don't want the 18 years of my son's life to be what's stuck here in this culture, in this environment. No, I want him to go see the world. Like he needs to see the world.
I'm glad you fought for it, and now the rules have changed thanks to one person trying to look for change. Um, so I hope there are other changes that happen as well soon. And if
Inshallah.
there is something that you are doing,
Inshallah.
I will put you
Definitely.
forward.
Definitely. I will keep you posted on that.
Please do. So, well, coming to your son, I've seen pictures of you and your son, and you look like two peas in a pod. You look exactly similar. So,
Thank you.
how has he been coping up, and how is his life now?
His life has always been good. It's always I've kept it very stable and streamlined for him. There's nothing to do with my past life before
Right.
he came into the world have anything to do with him currently, and I've kept that all very disconnected. He has zero effect of anything since he doesn't know anything. He's not seen anything. It's the kids that actually see abuse are the ones that suffer.
Right.
And by the time I got out of court, he was already like he was still small. Like there was not too much that he remembers or anything of that sort. Like he doesn't remember me taking him to court or me going to court, even though like his toddler life till the age of like 3, 4 has literally been in and out of court. So he has no memory or recollection of that. Like there's always been like great pictures I've taken of him when we together on whatever little small occasions I could make it. So he remembers all those. Like he doesn't remember any of the traumatic thing, which is good. I'm glad he doesn't need to remember. There's nothing there's nothing of that in his
Yeah.
memory at all. And yeah, he's a good, happy kid. Like he's so oblivious to all of this. He cannot understand. Like he'll joke around and be like, why would you get married to such a bad man? And I'm just like, God, I don't have answers. He only started understanding it a little bit when I took him to the passport office when I was getting his passport made because they needed the child, they needed him to be present out there. And that time would be like, oh, but where's your ex-husband? I'm like, he's not there. So he knew that the reason why his passport is not getting made is because of him.
Hmm.
So it was an automatic like, oh God, who's this man? Like he's just like ruining my life. It was more of that my mother's trying so hard to like kick me out, and because of him, I'm not getting the passport. Again, it was he apparently as far as I got to know that he apparently had some pull in the passport office and he'd like written like a clause or something down or some sort of thing that oh when this person comes to make the passport, don't make the passport. I got to know that much later after being in it. So then it almost became like he's just this is harassment, right? Like
Yeah.
if you love your kid so much, why would you not want the kid to see the world? But this was not, he's not normal, he's crazy. Like there's a whole another story that I will shortly be coming up with the bigger picture.
I know.
So he's just
Oh,
not normal. Yeah.
it's not normal. It's definitely not normal. And I hope there are stricter actions taken for such people. I mean, I don't know why they are let free, because if they are allowed to go free, they're going to do this again, right?
I don't know why. I really wish there was a way. Exactly. I really wish there was a way to get stricter actions put into cause, but let's see. I can only hope and wait and watch and see what I can do next now for these kind of individuals.
Yes, hopefully, there is something that happens, and I can also be a part of it. If you're starting something, I'll definitely join. So,
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I'll keep you in mind
yes, please.
once. We need more individuals and people and women like you to come forward and understand this and address the issue and, like spread the awareness to more and more individuals out there.
Yeah, I'm so glad I started this podcast because honestly, I started it on a whim. Like, I was really tired of hearing the phrase "Beta, when are you getting settled?" And Umar Biti Jari hai wala scene. So I thought, let's just talk to people, understand what the definition of settled mean to them, right? Do they want to be
Yeah.
settled? Do they want to find their happiness by being alone? Do they want to, I don't know, do things that they like? So that is how I started, and now I'm sitting in front of you, talking to you. I feel so happy.
I'm glad. I'm so glad.
So
So
what are your plans after this? Like, are you planning to pick up a new hobby? Are you
I'm
something different?
actually just planning to do some work, work related stuff at the moment. That's a new hobby and stuff. I don't think that's gonna take a backseat for a while till we actually streamline ourselves
Okay.
at the moment. So no new hobby at the moment. I think I'm just planning on focusing on work at the moment
Okay, I'm glad. I thought
to
you
keep
were
everything
also.
afloat.
Oh, I thought you were also going to join the
Sorry?
bandwagon. I know there's a time lag. There's a-
No, no, no. I'm not joining any bandwagon. I don't think I'm cut out for bandwagon.
Please, I thought you'll start like baking and making dalgona coffees, but okay.
Dalgona coffee was the oldest thing. I made it when I was like 14 years old, and people started posting, and I'm like, dude, I made this every day for coffee. Nothing special in it. Like me and friend of mine were joking about how suddenly this coffee has like it's the most Indianized coffee anyone can have. Like the Fetoy coffee we used to have as kids,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
that.
Pretty coffee.
It's
Hai.
just presented extra well, yeah, in fancy cups and all. I mean, that's about it.
Yes, I
So, are we at the end of our podcast now?
almost, yes. So I'm going to ask you this. I want to ask you this question. There are two questions that are left. So one is, what message you would like to give to somebody who is going through something similar to yours, going through domestic abuse. What should they do? And then I'll come to the final question, which you know what it is.
So I think I answered the first thing, right? Like if someone who's going through a domestic violence, what they should do, they should first address the issue and they should get someone who they are close to know that this is happening to them. Like
Right.
they need to first address the issue and then speak to someone and if possible, then try to obviously get out of it. But if not possible at that current time, either to just it's impossible to stay quiet because the emotional abuse is not just directed to you physically, it's also emotionally. Like the physically you can kind of the scars will fade, but emotional scars they kind of stay longer.
I know.
So like to first to like balance yourself out that whatever the person is doing is doing it because that person is crazy and it's not your fault. Like you're not subjected to this kind of abuse because you're doing something wrong. That person is crazy. That is why they are doing what they are doing.
Agreed. So I hope people find help, and I will try to find some connections, some NGOs that I can get in touch with, and I will add the links in the description as well, so that anybody who's
Yes,
watching this episode can get in
definitely.
touch with them. And coming to the final question, I know you don't believe in the concept of settled, so this is what I ask people on the podcast. It's called the Unsettling Podcast. So, what does being settled mean to you?
I think being settled first means to have be a content with your heart. Like just be content in where you are, I think would be being settled. Are you understanding? Like if
Yes.
you're settled, yeah, if you're settled within yourself, you don't have to try to like get into that bandwagon that only if I get married, I'll be settled. If I find a job, like you said, I'll be settled. Or if I make so much of money, I'll be well settled. Or if my kids are with, you know, if I have children now, then my life or my marriage or my relationship will be more settled. It's not.
Right.
All these things, unless you don't keep feeding it, they're not going to stay settled. I think we need to be settled in with ourselves, in our mind first, in order for everything else to enjoy the rest of the all these things on the periphery of our lives, all the things that we are supposed to do as individuals. It's all like you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to educate yourself, get a job, have kids,
Yeah.
buy a house, all those things that are expected from life.
I know.
So
So yeah, so stay unsettled, because if you keep on you know associating your happiness with a goal, you're always going to be unsettled, you're always going to be sad.
yes,
So as long as you're happy, you know what you're doing and you love what you're doing, so everything will be fine, everything will work out in the end,
yeah,
because you're content,
true,
you know what you want.
true, true.
So thank you Zaria, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I had
Thank
such
you
a
so
blast
much,
talking.
Amrita. Thank you so much. Likewise, and I definitely want to see this soon. And let's connect off our Zoom call sometime.
Yes, we should. I'm so glad that
See
we are
you
in touch.
then.
I need makeup tips,
Likewise.
don't forget that.
I gladly, gladly.
Okay, thank
Anyways,
you.
thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
See you then. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hello. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did and you want to talk to me, all you have to do is go to my Instagram profile. It's called Amrita Sukumar underscore unsettling. And you can drop me a DM, or you can send me an email on podcast.unsettling.as@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Thank you for staying tuned. Bye.